In my first impressions video for Metal Slug Tactics, I really talked up the overall tactical functionality of the game. So realistically, I should be able to provide some tips that back that up, right? Well, you're in luck, because I can. My name is Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman, and welcome back to the channel.
Metal Slug Tactics.
Hello everyone, if you enjoy what I do, including my coverage of newly released tactical games like Metal Slug Tactics, whether that be actual news, guides, gameplay footage, etc., a like on this video, a subscription to the channel, and maybe consideration of checking out my YouTube memberships and my Patreon to help keep the channel going would be very much appreciated. Thank you so much. Today we're talking 10 tips for Metal Slug Tactics. There's a good mix of beginner-friendly and more high-level content in here, so I think there's going to be a little bit of something for everybody. First off, let's talk about sync damage bonuses. These bonuses are god tier. There will be some upgrades, some skills, some other bonuses that will put extra damage on your sync attacks whenever you trigger them. Sometimes this comes in the form of the Deputy Commander skill, where when the character with said skill is involved in a sync attack, all other characters will get 1 extra point of damage per attack, which is pretty awesome. Other times, you'll see upgrades for maybe weapons or skills that make it so that an individual character just always does bonus damage with their sync attack, or maybe after they do a specific condition, will get bonus damage in a sync attack for that turn. Other times, you might just see a bonus damage boost in general, like in the case of Theo with her Killing Spree ability, where every time she's involved in a kill, she gets bonus damage for all of her attacks for the rest of the turn, including sync attacks. Regardless of where this bonus is coming from, it is one of the #1 things that you should be looking out for when you're upgrading your characters, when you're getting them new skills, and when you're buying new weapon upgrades for them, as it will equal a massive damage increase. Remember, sync attacks can be triggered multiple times a turn. It's not like it's just a one-and-done thing. So, if a character is dealing even 1 bonus damage on their normal pistol shot on a sync attack, realistically, that could be 3, 4, 5 extra damage spread across enemies on any given map, and that is huge. Number 2, use revives for free movement. This is one that I like to see in turn-based strategy games, tactics games, and it's something I've been seeing more of recently. If a character goes down and you use a 1-up token to revive them, you're actually able to choose within a certain distance of where they fell to put them down with half HP. Ideally, this is something that you're going to be using to get them out of a sticky situation, maybe put them in cover, or something else advantageous for them to prevent them from being downed again. But in certain scenarios where you maybe need to reach an exit within a certain number of turns or with a certain number of characters, or you just need to really be able to get to a priority target to save them, finish them off, what have you, being able to get 4-ish extra squares of movement just out of reviving a character can be a big deal. Now, is this something that you should be planning around as part of your core strategy? Probably not. You do have a limited number of revives. You can never really guarantee if a character is going to be downed or not, depending on where the enemy AI goes. But if you do have someone that gets knocked down, you can potentially use this as a little bit of extra meta strategy to steal a little bit of extra motion, which is really nice. Number 3, never underestimate the high ground. One of the things that I struggled with the most when I first started playing Metal Slug Tactics was the idea that elevation really does matter. The biggest reason for this is because most weapons are not able to shoot up and down elevation. If you have a direct fire weapon like a pistol or a rifle or something along those lines, it's not going to be able to shoot up or down. You need to be on an even elevation with your target, and the same goes for the enemy if they're shooting at you. There are exceptions to this, of course, things like grenade launchers that have an arcing shot. That's part of the advantage of them, but for most things, you got to be on the even plane. So if you're trying to reduce the damage that you're taking from enemies, just get above them. Most enemies have a pretty low movement range, and unless, again, they're shooting a mortar or throwing a grenade, they're not going to be able to attack up or down at you if you wind up moving into an advantageous position. So if you have no other way to get out of the line of sight, to avoid damage, maybe you can't move far enough to get dodge, or you can't get cover, maybe you can just move into a higher or lower elevation where the enemy can't even shoot at you, right? And that's, I mean, a pretty economical way to reduce the damage that you're taking. Number 4, bonus actions are huge for increased damage. And I know some of you are going to roll your eyes and be like, yeah, no kidding, Tom. But listen, like, Bonus actions and bonus movement in Metal Slug Tactics are one of the things that you want to be leaning into the most, alongside bonus damage on sync attacks. I cannot describe how many times I've led characters into builds by the end of a campaign where they're maximizing 3, 4, 5 bonus actions and bonus moves a turn. And just being able to get extra attacks out, even just basic handgun attacks, or just being able to move over and over again to chain together sync attacks, or just be in position to participate in sync attacks, or to get out of range of the enemy to build up adrenaline, to get other abilities online. It is absolutely huge. Having more actions, having more movement is pretty much always going to be massively powerful in any game like this, and if you have the chance to get these upgrades or to lean into a build that features this type of action and movement economy with a character, you absolutely should be doing so. It will do great things for you. Number 5, every move you make, every step you take should trigger a sync attack if possible. Again, sync attacks are huge. The damage from them is massive. It is a core part of the gameplay of Metal Slug Tactics, and it's the type of thing in like Triangle Strategy or Tactics Ogre that I loved to see the inclusion of, right? Having smart positioning of your characters, especially in a game where ranged attacks are the norm because everyone's using firearms, it's so important and it's so satisfying to set up properly. Being able to daisy chain your characters across a map and have a big cross section of it covered by overlapping lanes of fire and taking out way more enemies than there are of you as the player character is just so much fun. It's a great way to make this sort of underdog, lower numbers, success story gameplay style a thing. It's absolutely vital when you're moving. Pay attention to if you're going to get a sync attack with a character, and even more importantly, if you're going to be able to get multiple sync attacks with where you moved a character to. Next up, max level skills get big bonus effects. This really should not be surprising, but as you upgrade your characters as they level up, you can continue to get higher skill levels for their base level skills, other skills that you acquire over the course of a run, what have you. The first couple levels, you might just see, maybe an extra space or two of range on some sort of grenade throw or inspire ability, or maybe it costs a little less adrenaline, maybe the effect lasts a little bit longer. But when you get to the max levels, that's when you start to see really nice bonus effects come in. Maybe extra moves, extra bonus actions. Maybe it doesn't cost any adrenaline anymore. Maybe you apply status effects. There's a lot of different ways that these max level skills can be useful for you. And not every single skill gets some cool, crazy bonus effect when it hits max level, but a lot of them do. So I do highly encourage when you're building out a character for a run to lean into a particular skill and the playstyle that it creates for that character as you continue to level them up, because oftentimes you'll be rewarded for kind of maxing out that skill. Number 7, a sync attack that was meant for a target that died will hit enemies behind the dead target. This is one of those higher level techniques that I really started to make use of as I went up to higher difficulty levels in Metal Slug Tactics. If you have, say, 2 different characters lined up, right, and you throw a grenade with Eri. If you have 2 enemies that are in the same line of fire, the grenade kills the first one and there's a dude behind him, and say you have like Marco or someone in front of Eri, he'll take the shot that was supposed to hit the guy that was being targeted, but because that guy is dead, the bullet will pass through that square and hit the guy behind him, even if he wasn't normally part of the sync attack. This is not something that you're always going to be able to make use of, obviously. It just kind of depends on enemy positioning and what your ranges and attack patterns are on your weapons. But if you can make it happen, it's a nice little way to squeak out extra damage that you might not have otherwise been able to trigger through a normal sync attack. So look out for opportunities like this. Now, this one might be a bug, it might be intended, so keep that in mind. This could be maybe patched later down the line, but a character that sync attacks a unit that is already dead is still counted as contributing to the kill for things like bonus objectives where you need to get X amount of kills with a specific character on your team, or achievements that you can get to unlock new weapon sets or characters, like hit 5 enemies in 1 turn with Marco or something like that. So basically how this works is, say you have a basic enemy that's only got 3 HP left, and you have, for example, Marco and Fio both ready to shoot at him. Both of their weapons will deal 3 damage, which in this scenario is enough to finish the guy off if he's only got 3 health, right? However, the character that takes the shot, even though they finished them off, will still trigger a sync attack with the other character that's in line of sight with this enemy. That sync attack will go off, no damage will be done. If there's no enemy like in the line of sight of the character, nothing will be hit, like what we mentioned in the previous tip. But it will still count as a kill credit for that character. They still took part. To me, this seems a little gamey. It seems like something that probably shouldn't take place, but maybe it's not. Maybe the devs intended it that way, and if so, I highly endorse you to take full advantage of it. It's made certain objectives so much easier to achieve, and as you get up to higher difficulty levels, you're going to need every advantage that you can get. So keep an eye out for these opportunities. I think they'll come across more often than you would expect. Next up, focus down bosses. Don't get bogged down in ads. Every single boss in the game will come with a fairly decently large stage. Some of them are smaller than others, but a lot of times you have a lot of room to maneuver. And with a big stage comes a lot of opportunity for the game to put down extra enemies. Now, of course, sometimes you need to be able to take out the little guys so you can just reduce the amount of damage that you're taking, so you can get them out of the way if you need to maneuver, or just to reduce the overall level of nuisance that you're experiencing while you're fighting a boss. However, at the end of the day, the objective is destroy the boss, and enemies will continue to spawn so long as that boss is alive and that battle isn't cleared. So, every opportunity that you have, if you do not absolutely need to be clearing some trash mob, have all of your firepower going into the boss. Make sure your sync attacks are set up. Don't worry about trying to hit other little dudes. Position properly so you can get your one big sync attack a turn, since bosses have immunity to all but the first sync attack. Make sure you're putting your shots in. Make sure you're using your abilities properly to deal damage to the boss specifically. If you get some other little guys in the crossfire, great, bonus. But all of your efforts need to be going into the bosses, especially as you get to higher levels and enemies have way more HP, both generic ads and also bosses. It's crucial. You will get overwhelmed. You will lose the battle of attrition. Take those bosses down as fast as possible. Now, we've been talking about higher difficulties a lot here, but we do need to talk about lower difficulties with our next tip, where you can use lower difficulties to unlock all of the characters. This is something that I mentioned in my first impressions video, but it really does not take a lot of effort to unlock all of the characters and start actually getting their achievements done, unlocking their weapon sets, their skills, things like that. And if you spend a lot of time without unlocking some of these characters and starting to use them, they'll be very behind compared to the rest of your roster once you finally do get around to unlocking them. And there's not a single character that requires you to be playing on a higher difficulty level, unless there's any little secret characters hidden away, which we'll have to look for. But for the normal cast, there's no benefit to you for playing on a higher difficulty. If you exclusively want to play on the highest difficulty that you have unlocked, fair enough, more power to you. But I highly encourage you to take the time, learn the mechanics, practice with some of these characters, and unlock the whole roster on some of the lower difficulties so you have all of your options available to you as you go into the higher difficulties. It'll give you more room to play, it'll make the sandbox bigger for you, and just give you more options in general, which is always a good thing. And with that said, that is my first tips video for Metal Slug Tactics. There is a ton to analyze with this game. There's a ton to go over, so I can very easily imagine myself in a scenario where I can create more tips videos, and especially starting to do full deep dive character breakdowns of the entire cast. If those are things that you would like to see, or there's other video topics for Metal Slug Tactics that you think I should cover, let me know down in the comments below. And if you're just playing the game, enjoying, maybe one of these tips helps you out, let me know that in the comments as well. It's always good to see when my work is actually helping people instead of just throwing it into the YouTube void and hoping it's useful to somebody. With that said, though, I'm going to wrap this one up here. My name has been Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all have a good night. Stay safe and healthy out there. And remember, be good to each other. Bye now.